Acknowledging that you and I have privilege is so important because we take so many things for granted. From our able-bodied to the resources that we have, to our home, to the friends, the family, the support system, the loved ones, the education. We take that for granted. And it's hard to see that, and it's hard to notice that, because sometimes it's just there and you don't know a difference, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with not knowing that you do have privilege, because you just don't know, because certain things in our lives are considered privileges to other people. And it's crazy because I learned in my business ethics class that depending upon the economic status of a country, privileges are considered rights in different countries. So at least in the country I am, like I'm like from, like you can have like it's like accessible, like public education, sometimes free transportation. There are like certain fundings for like food and like healthcare. I think you have to qualify through certain income, and simple things like that should be human rights, honestly. However, but in different countries, education is not guaranteed, healthcare isn't guaranteed, transportation isn't guaranteed, clean water isn't guaranteed. Like the country that I am in, I could go anywhere and get free water if I had to, that is clean, that is pure, that is drinkable. But I know in so many third world countries that is not the same. And so just being able to recognize small privileges like that can help you be more appreciative of when times get rough. That yes, your time, the thing that you're going through really sucks, but looking from a big picture, it might help you to think about the things that you do have. And it's really hard to relate to something that you have never experienced. Because like, for example, when I was younger, they asked for socks and shoes donations. And the most, I should say, this was like a shelter for clothing, like a clothing shelter. And the number one request that they had were socks. Socks. Not shoes, not, okay. I'm like skipping around, but they didn't ask for like shirts, pants, underclothing, anything like that. They just asked for like shoes and socks being their number one request. And you don't think about that. You just think, oh, I'm gonna grab my socks from the drawer. Okay, I got my shoes, I got the clean shoes, let me put them on. But the thing is, socks are so needed because your feet are so important, and you need dry socks to put on your shoes. And it's something so small, but when you have experienced no socks before and honestly no shoes, it means the world. Because imagine yourself, it's a rainy day, there's puddles everywhere, and you forgot your rain boots. You accidentally step in a puddle, and so then you have to walk around in wet socks and shoes all day long. But then when you get home, you can dry off your feet, and you have clean socks, and you have maybe warm slippers, and you're like, man, I really do appreciate that. And from like another, like same thing going on, I saw this Instagram post, and it was like, I used to complain about not having shoes. And then like the word below it was like, until I saw and heard from a man who did not have any feet. And I was like, whoa. Perspective is crazy. And then just like thinking of like our physical body, that I know I take for granted my ability to run, to go play basketball, to go play soccer, to swim, to go to the gym, like to be active. Like that is one thing that keeps me grounded. And I'm so blessed to have 2 arms, 2 legs. Like I'm so beyond blessed. However, not everybody has that. Not everybody has 4 limbs and an able body, and that is able to walk and is able to be pain-free. And being able to understand that privilege, I think, keeps me grounded and is a way to stay grounded. Because sometimes when you hold your privileges up so high, for example, if you have a really nice car or a really nice house or something that's really like luxurious compared to the majority of like regular population, it's like you become better than them. And then you're like other people, and then you judge other people of like, oh, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? Why can't you have this? Like you begin to judge because you cannot relate. And being able to understand someone else's experiences and to be able to appreciate what you have is a good way to not judge someone. Because I believe judgment comes from a place of not understanding someone else and not being able to relate to someone. Because imagine you do not like the color yellow. You think it's ugly, it reminds you of mustard, baby food, a lot of other things that are not the most appealing, that's where they're going, appealing or pleasing things. But then someone that you know, their favorite color is yellow. And then you're like, yo, why is your favorite color yellow? That is so ugly. There are so many things that are related to that thing, and it's yellow and it's ugly. And then they tell you, well, actually my grandma used to plant sunflower seeds all the time, and she made yellow dresses all the time for me, and she used to cook me yellow poppy seed muffins or ice cream that was yellow. It's something so small like that, but you could put it on such a bigger scale. But that's just a super small example of judgment because you do not understand or relate to someone. And neither person is wrong. They're not. However, the way that you communicate your questions and your curiosity is so important. Because I know with like certain countries, they're like stereotyped to be like very blunt, very brash, but that's just how their culture is. But then, however, to someone else from a different country and culture, they'd be like, why are you so rude? Why are you so intrusive? Why are you so pushy? Like, why are you asking me this? This is like, why? And so you kind of have to be aware of what you say in a polite way, in a human to human, nice curiosity way. Because some things can be taken the wrong way. And the last thing I know you would want to do is to offend somebody, because that is not your intention. And so I think coming to somebody with an open heart and asking them politely and in just like the best way that you genuinely think, by even like saying like, this might seem really ignorant, but, or I really have no background in this, like could you please educate me about blank? Or I'm trying to learn blank and I know that you have experience in it. Could you please teach me and open my eyes to this? Admitting that you do not know something, admitting that you are ignorant to something, does not mean that you are stupid. It means that you have the willingness to learn, and that openness a part of you, or openness that is a part of you that is willing to learn. And I think that the person who is receiving your question would be most likely to respond in a positive manner, to say that they have a positive experience rather than being like, yo, why do you think this? Yo, why do you think that? Or like, excuse me, like, what is that? Being like I mentioned before, hi, excuse me, I'm trying to, period, like fill in the blank. And that is probably the best way to become educated and to avoid assumptions and judgments, because we are humans and we are very curious and we want to learn and we just want to experience life. And there's nothing wrong with that. You and I are allowed to experience life. That, I don't know if like it just reminds me of high school, because in one of like my constitutional classes I had to learn about like the human rights and the global human rights, and like many times there are probably hundreds of millions of people's human rights from the Universal Declaration of Independence. That's not that, it's like human rights or something. I just look up like international or like worldwide like human rights. That's what I'm saying. That like those are violated. And being able to humanize somebody else when maybe that person has felt dehumanized would probably be the best way to start a friendship, the best way to start being educated by somebody who is very well experienced in that area of the unknown that you are asking about. And I think being respectful is one of, like I mentioned, or like I've kind of like had an undertone an undertone of being respectful, and just being respectfully curious is the best way that I can put it. And so just always be open and try not to judge other people because you do not understand them. And I'm trying to work on that too. And I'm not perfect by any means. And I'm trying to learn how to do that and to learn that other people's lives are not well suited for me, but my life would not be very well suited for many other people just because of certain things. And it's really just taught me to appreciate everything that I have and to take into consideration all the privileges that I have. And so I hope that after watching this that you can maybe just count one or two privileges that you have. And I consider privileges blessings. And if you want to call them blessings, go for it. If you want to call them privileges, sure. Whatever's your fancy. And so I think that if you can name a few blessings that you have every single day, it might help you feel a little more gratitude, or like feel more like grounded and have more gratitude in your life, which will overall hopefully bring you more positivity. Food for thought.